The day I saw my wife's phone light up with a message from my best friend, I knew my family was no longer mine. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm 46 years old, and for the last 20 years, I worked the late shift at the steel plant outside Joliet. Long nights, long hours, steady paychecks. My pride was never in titles or offices. It was in putting food on the table, paying tuition, and making sure my wife Linda and our son Mark never had to wonder if the bills would be covered. Linda and I married young. She was fiery, beautiful, with a laugh that filled every room. For years, I thought we balanced each other. Her charm, my grit. Mark came along when I was 26. Raising him was my reason for every overtime shift, every double weekend I took when the company needed bodies. And then there was Dave. He'd been my best friend since high school. We fished together on Sundays, watched Bears games, split the cost of a small boat we kept down at the river. Dave was the one man I trusted enough to hold my house keys, the man I asked to be Mark's godfather. One Thursday night, after coming off a 12-hour shift, I set my lunch pail down and saw Linda's phone buzzing on the counter. A preview lit the screen. "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. D." I froze. I picked it up, unlocked it, and scrolled. Thread after thread of messages. Times lining up perfectly with the evenings I'd been working late. Words no husband should ever read. Plans, confessions, promises. And the name at the top, Dave. When Linda came into the kitchen, she saw the phone in my hand. She didn't gasp. She didn't deny it. She just stared at me with eyes that looked like stone. "Eric," she said, her voice flat, "I didn't want you to find out this way." At that moment, something inside me cracked. Not anger, not yelling. Just a silence so heavy it felt like lead in my chest. 2 nights later, at Sunday dinner, Dave sat at my table. He laughed with Mark about football, passed the potatoes to Linda, and spoke to me like nothing had changed. My son smiled at him, easy, relaxed, the same son who barely looked up when I walked in the door. I watched the three of them, and it hit me like a steel beam. The betrayal wasn't in the shadows anymore. It was sitting at my table, smiling, clinking glasses, calling me family. That was the night I understood my fight wouldn't just be with a cheating wife or a lying friend. It would be with the story they were already telling my son. I didn't wait long. The morning after that Sunday dinner, I told Linda we needed to talk. No more pretending, no more quiet nods across the table while my so-called best friend carved the roast. She sat in the living room, phone in hand, scrolling like nothing mattered. I stood there with her screen still burned into my memory. The late-night messages, the plans they made while I worked 12-hour shifts to keep the lights on. "How long?" I asked. My voice came out low, steady. Linda didn't look up. "Eric, don't start." "How long?" I repeated. Finally, she raised her eyes. No tears, no guilt. Just a tired shrug. "A few months, maybe more. Dave listens. He understands me. You don't." My fists clenched. "Understands you? He's been my brother for 30 years. He held our son when he was baptized. And you, stop acting like you're the victim," she snapped. "You work, you come home tired, you complain. You stopped seeing me years ago." The words stung, but betrayal doesn't soften when it's dressed up as blame. That's when Mark walked in. He must have heard us from the stairs. My son, my only son, looked at me like I was the intruder. "Dad, what's going on?" I swallowed hard. "Ask your mother. Ask your godfather." Linda folded her arms. "Don't drag him into this." But Mark had already seen the tension. "Mom," she sighed, "your father and I, We're not working anymore. Dave's been a friend to me. Mark's eyes shifted to me. Dad, maybe it's for the best. You're always angry, always at work. Maybe Mom deserves to be happy. The words hit harder than anything Linda said. My own son, standing there in our living room, defending the man who stabbed me in the back. You think this is about happiness? I asked him, voice breaking. This is about betrayal, about loyalty, about respect. Mark shook his head. All I know is you yell a lot and Mom's tired. Dave's different. He listens. I looked at him, then at Linda, and realized the truth. The story had already been rewritten. I wasn't the husband who sacrificed. I was the burden, the problem, the man they could erase with a shrug. That was the snap. That was the moment the family I built turned its back. And I knew if I didn't fight, I'd lose not just a wife, not just a friend, but my son. The silence came first. For years, my phone had been a constant stream. Family group chat, photos from Mark at college, quick notes from Linda about groceries or dinners. Within days of that confrontation, it all went dark. I opened the family thread and saw a red banner. You are no longer a participant. Removed. By Linda. At work, the guys noticed. Word travels fast in a factory town. A coworker muttered in the break room, heard Linda's been seen with Dave a lot lately. Another shook his head. Shame. I thought those two were solid. They didn't say it to hurt me. But pity feels like a knife when it's aimed at your back. Neighbors stopped waving. Mrs. Thompson across the street used to bring pies when Mark was little. Now she avoided eye contact, hurrying inside with her groceries. Gossip had done its work. In a town this size, scandal spreads faster than truth. Then came the real gut punch. Mark, my son. He stopped answering my calls. At first I thought he was busy with classes. Then I saw the notification. Messages cannot be delivered. He'd blocked me. I drove up to his campus one Friday, unannounced. Found him in the quad, sitting with friends. He stood when he saw me, but his arms crossed tight across his chest. Dad, you can't just show up like this, he said. I just want to talk, I told him. You haven't answered me in weeks. His voice was cold. Mom says you're making things worse. Dave says you're unstable. Maybe it's better if we take some space. Dave. Even here, even now, my so-called best friend's name was on my son's lips instead of mine. I looked at Mark, really looked, and saw a boy trying hard to be a man, clinging to the easier story because it hurt less than the truth. But his choice cut me all the same. That night, I sat alone in my truck in the plant parking lot. 12 hours of sweat on my clothes, paycheck in my pocket, and nothing to come home to. My wife with my friend, my son siding with them, my name being dragged through kitchens and church pews across town. Isolation wasn't just being alone. It was being erased from the very family I built my life around. But in that hollow silence, something else stirred. A thought. A plan. If they wanted me gone, I'd show them exactly how strong I could be when I had nothing left to lose. When you're cut out of your own family, you have two choices: drown in silence or dig for the truth. I chose to dig. It started with receipts. Linda had always been careless with paperwork. A credit card bill showed dinners at places she swore she'd never have time for. Hotel charges 2 towns over on nights I worked double shifts. The name on the second guest? Hidden, but not hidden well enough. Cross-referenced with Dave's loyalty rewards account. It matched. Then I checked our old fishing business. Dave and I had registered a side hustle years back. splitting costs for bait and repairs. We kept the books in a shared email. I logged in. He must have forgotten I still had the password. Transfers, cash withdrawals, payments for things I'd never approved. He'd been siphoning money under my name, long before Linda ever looked his way. Proof is just paper unless someone outside the circle sees it. That's where fate gave me a hand. My cousin Rachel called one night, whispering, "Eric, I don't want to get in the middle, but I saw Linda and Dave together last week. They weren't hiding it. At the diner, holding hands. Everyone noticed." That was it. A witness. Not just my suspicion, not just my pain. Someone else had seen it. I waited for the right moment. It came at Mom's birthday dinner, the one time the family still insisted on gathering. The room buzzed with small talk and cake candles when I stood, folder in hand. "Before we sing," I said, my voice steady, "I need to clear something." Chairs shifted, eyes turned. Linda stiffened, fork frozen midair. Dave leaned back in his seat, smug as ever. I laid down the receipts first. Hotel bills, dinners. 2 names, same nights I was on shift. Murmurs rose. Aunts craned their necks. Then the bank printouts. Withdrawals from the phishing account Dave and I shared. Money missing. His email on the transfers. Finally, I looked to Rachel. She swallowed hard, then stood. I saw them at the diner. They weren't just talking. Gasps cut through the table. Linda's face flushed crimson. "This is disgusting," she hissed. "Digging through my accounts? Stalking me?" Dave slammed his palm down. "You're twisting things, Eric. You always were jealous." I shook my head. Jealous? No. Betrayed? Absolutely. For the first time, Mark's eyes flickered. Not sure, not defensive, just uncertain. He looked at his mother, then at Dave, then back at me. The room broke into chaos. Siblings arguing, uncles demanding answers, Mom weeping quietly at the head of the table. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. The proof spoke louder than any defense they could muster. I gathered my folder and said one last thing before walking out. Loyalty is a choice, and now everyone here knows which choice you made. The silence behind me was heavier than chains, but it was the first time in weeks I felt free. The first call came from a number I didn't know. "Is this Eric Johnson? This is Campus Financial Services. Your son Mark's tuition account is on hold due to a delinquent private loan. The guarantor is David Harper." Dave. I felt the room tilt. Mark never took a private loan. "The loan funded through a third-party app, electronic signature on file," the voice replied. "Payments are 3 months past due." An hour later, a collections agent rang. A starter business line for a podcast gear kit. Mics, cameras, lights, purchased in Mark's name, co-signed by Dave. The balance, $5,000 and climbing. I hung up and called my son, straight to voicemail. By midnight, the emergency hit. "Mr. Johnson?" a steady voice asked. "This is Officer Reyes with the Joliet Police Department. Your son Mark is at the station. He's not under arrest, but he was present in a vehicle stop. The driver is being processed for DUI." "The driver's name?" I asked, though I already knew. "David Harper." I arrived to find Mark in a plastic chair, hands shaking, eyes red. He looked 12 again. Dave sat cuffed behind glass, slurring apologies at anyone who'd listen. "Dad," Mark said, standing. It was supposed to be a sponsorship. Dave said if I helped him launch a sports podcast, brands would cover the gear. He said the loan was temporary float. Then he bought a celebration round, and I lifted a hand. "Breathe." He gulped air. I kept believing him. Even after the texts, after the dinner, I thought, I thought you were just angry. I'm sorry. Officer Reyes slid a form across the counter. We need a sober adult to take your son home. He's not charged, but he'll need to give a statement about the loan scheme if it crosses into fraud. On the way out, Dave called to me from the bench, voice hoarse. Eric, brother, help me. I can fix this. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. For Mark. I stopped, turned. You used my son's name for debt and nearly put him in the back of a patrol car. He smirked, then winced through the haze. You always overreact. I leaned closer to the glass so only he could see my eyes. This is me underreacting. Back home, I sat Mark at the kitchen table where his mother once left casseroles to cool. I laid every paper down: tuition hold, gear purchase, the note with Dave's e-signature, the credit app he'd sent to Mark at 2:07 a.m. with the line, "Tap accept. I'll handle the rest." Mark swallowed hard. I thought he believed in me. He said you never did. I believed you could stand on truth, I said, not on someone else's lies. He covered his face. What do I do? You call the loan office first thing, I said. You tell the truth. You send them every message. And you block him everywhere. My phone buzzed again. Linda. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. Eric, she said, voice frayed. They took Dave. The police called me because I was on his emergency contact. What's happening to Mark? Your boyfriend dragged him into a fake sponsorship and a DUI stop, I said. What's happening is consequences. Silence. Then a brittle whisper. Can you help him? Mark, I mean. I already am, I said. Are you ready to help too? Start with the truth, she exhaled. I'll come by in the morning. After I hung up, Mark stared at the mess of papers. Dad, if there's a hearing or something, will you be there? I nodded once. Every minute. I cleaned the table, stacked the files, and felt the shape of the next move settle into place. Dave had crossed the last line. He hadn't just taken my wife. He'd tried to take my son. In the morning, there would be banks, statements, and a visit to a neighbor who worked compliance for a regional lender. After that, there would be a room, a family, and proof that didn't blink under fluorescent lights. The emergency had done what months of arguing hadn't. It pulled my son back to where truth lives, and it gave me the cleanest reason to end this the only way it could end, publicly, permanently, with evidence no one could explain away. The confrontation came faster than I expected. Linda called, voice sharp with panic. Eric, Mom invited everyone for Sunday dinner. She wants this settled. Please come. I almost refused, but this was the opening I had been waiting for. When I walked into my mother-in-law's dining room, the table was packed. Linda at one end, Mark beside her, uncles, cousins, even Rachel who'd witnessed the diner scene. And at the far side, somehow, sat Dave. He looked worn, suit wrinkled, eyes bloodshot, but still grinning like he owned the room. I'm glad you came, brother, he said. Let's clear the air. I laid my folder on the table. Let's, Linda started. Eric, we don't need more fighting. This has gone far enough. I slid the first paper forward. Mark's tuition account. Loan defaulted. Co-signed by Dave Harper. Gasps from the table, I pushed the next. Equipment financing. $5,000 in debt, also in Mark's name, also co-signed by Dave. Dave raised his hands. Temporary, just business. I was helping the kid build something. Helping? I pulled out the police report. Helping him end up in a police station at 2 a.m. while you blew over the limit behind the wheel? Silence fell. Mark dropped his eyes, shame burning in his cheeks. I pressed play on my phone. Dave's voice filled the room from a voicemail. Tap accept. I'll handle the rest. Don't tell your dad. He'll ruin it. Murmurs broke out. Rachel whispered to an uncle, who shook his head in disgust. Linda's voice cracked. "Dave, is this true?" he stammered. It's taken out of context." I leaned forward. Context is exactly what this is. Lies, schemes, manipulation. You used my wife, you used my son. You bled me for years in the business. And now you want sympathy? My son looked at me then, his voice shaking. "Dad, I didn't believe you. I thought you were just jealous. I see it now. You were right." I put a hand on his shoulder. Truth doesn't need me to shout. It speaks for itself. The room turned. Uncles demanding answers. Cousins muttering about shame. Even my mother-in-law, who had once defended Dave, looked away from him. Dave slammed the table. "You think you've won? This isn't over." I gathered the papers calmly. "It's over. You lost the only thing you can't fake, trust, and it's never coming back." For the first time, his smirk died. The blow landed. Not with fists, not with rage, with truth laid bare in front of everyone who had once doubted me. 2 nights after that dinner, Linda showed up at my door. She wasn't dressed for war this time. No makeup, no rehearsed anger. Just a woman with circles under her eyes, clutching her coat like a shield. "Eric," she started, voice trembling. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For Dave, for dragging Mark into the middle, for letting lies replace the truth. I don't even know who I became." I didn't answer. I let the silence do its work. She stepped closer. Can we fix this? I'll cut Dave off completely. I'll do counseling, whatever it takes." I finally spoke. "You didn't just hurt me, Linda. You made our son believe his father was the villain. You let another man sit at my table and wear my trust like a mask. That doesn't get erased by an apology." Her eyes filled. "So you won't forgive me?" I shook my head slowly. Forgiveness isn't a gift to hand out when someone begs. It's earned. And you haven't even started paying back the damage. She swallowed hard, then nodded. "I understand." She turned to leave, shoulders bent lower than when she arrived. Later that week, Mark asked to meet me at the diner. No Linda, just him, sitting in a booth, hands wrapped around a coffee he didn't drink. "Dad," he said, voice breaking. "I was wrong. I believed him. I believed Mom. I thought you were bitter, jealous, but you were the only one telling the truth. I'm sorry." I looked at him, my son who had once blocked my number. "Sorry doesn't fix it, Mark, but it's a start." He blinked fast, holding back tears. "Can we start over?" I nodded once. "We can, but you'll have to walk a straighter line than Dave ever showed you. Respect doesn't come free. You'll earn it back, step by step." For the first time in months, I saw my son's eyes clear, the fog of lies lifting. Linda had lost her place. Dave had lost everything. But my son, he still had a chance. And I wasn't going to let betrayal steal that from me too. The weeks after that showdown felt like stepping out of a storm. The air was clearer, even if the ground was still wet. I signed the papers to dissolve the fishing business Dave and I once shared. Every account closed, every loose end cut. For the first time in 30 years, there was no trace of him in my finances, my friendships, or my home. He tried calling from a new number once. I didn't pick up. The silence said enough. Linda moved into an apartment across town. She sent messages, sometimes long confessions, sometimes short pleas. I didn't reply. A marriage built on betrayal isn't a marriage. It's a prison with nice curtains. I wasn't walking back into that cell. Mark began coming around more. He'd drop by after class, sometimes just to sit in the garage while I worked on the old Chevy. One night he said, "Dad, I want to do better. I want to be the kind of man who doesn't fall for lies." I handed him a wrench and nodded. "Then start by fixing what's in front of you." We worked in silence, side by side. That silence was different from before. It wasn't emptiness. It was rebuilding. I rented a small place of my own. Nothing fancy, 2 bedrooms, a worn porch swing. Space enough for peace. For the first time in years, the walls felt like they belonged to me. Not to betrayal, not to someone else's story, to me. Some nights I still hear Linda's words, Dave's smirk, Mark's early doubts, but they don't sting the same. They remind me of what I survived and what I refuse to ever accept again. The truth is, revenge wasn't about seeing Dave fall or Linda regret. It was about reclaiming the only thing they tried to take, my dignity. And now, with my son slowly finding his way back, I know I've already won. I choose me. Tell me what you'd do. Drop your story and subscribe. Revenge Stories Men U50 USA.